Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of our live show. And today we are hacking real code, and it's really fascinating to see how my guest will perform in this challenge actually tonight. And if you haven't noticed him so far, he's a real god in hacking Maven code. And here is the man that never ever would do a MVN clean install. Here is Andres Almiray. Hello, Andres. Welcome.
Hi, Marcus. How are you? Yeah, so I'm very, very happy to be here on the show. And that's exactly true. You heard it first here. I would never invoke a Maven clean install unless there is no other choice.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I noticed it. I controlled it in the hacker garden. I have never seen him entering the command MVN clean at all. Andres, some weeks back, actually, we had a discussion on Twitter where you posted that it's not so nice that there are some Maven plugins left where you cannot skip the execution. And one idea was that we could ask if it's possible to always skip generically somehow in the Maven code, and that's maybe a big break inside of the Maven code. So we came up the idea: how would it be if we would do a live show where you add a skip property to one of those plugins? And you said that would be great if I would contribute it, and I said, well, let's contribute it together. So if you come to my show, let's do that. And unfortunately, my hands are broken, or my keyboard is broken, and I cannot type anything. So my part would be watching you and commenting all the bugs that you do, and try recording how often you do MVN clean install. And your job in this show actually would be to show all the people how easy and fascinating it is to contribute to a Maven plugin, and how easily you can set up and fix all those great things. So what about that idea?
It sounds great. To get a little bit more of background to the audience, I was dealing with a demo of an application that was created using an archetype. The creators of said archetype decided that all applications were inherent for a Maven for a parent pump. In this case, this parent pump is something that I cannot touch. I cannot change directly. Had configured the Maven Shade plugin always. And for reasons that I was testing with another project that needed just plain jars, not shaded jars, I needed to disable the shade plugin. There was no easy way for me to do so because all the configuration was coming inherited from the parent. The only way that I could do that was either I create another project that does not inherit from the parent and then copying a lot of configuration. That's a lot of hassle. Or the other workaround is to redefine the shade plugin and override its configuration, which is what I ended up doing. But that's really a hack.
Yeah.
Preferably, it would be much, much better if the shade plugin had just one property that I can control from the child, where I can say, do I really want to run it or not? And that's exactly what we want to do today, because there are many Maven plugins out there that have this kind of a skip property that will always check the first thing before it's run is, do I really need to run? Is the skip value equals true? Then I do nothing. And well, let's see how far we can take it today.
Okay, for those who could not follow, so the whole story in short was, we had some problem with programming, and now we will fix it.
Pretty much.
Pretty much it. Okay, so before we start, let me open my beer. So programming always makes me thirsty, and looking others programming too. So I always thought that most people will drink beer actually in the evening, and you showed me something that has a very interesting color, and I don't dare to say that it's a beer. What actually is that?
Yeah, this is not beer. This is just orange, an orange-based drink.
Okay, I hope you mean not just the color orange, but actually the fruit. So cheers to you, and I would
Yes.
say that the microphone is yours, and we just dive into the code and have some interesting vision of your changing of the plugin?
Okay, so let's see. The first thing that we need is we probably need to share my screen.
Yeah. Before that, just everybody that has questions, you can hack into the live chat on YouTube. I will check what you are typing, and if it's possible, I will chime in and try to provide an answer, or ask Andres to provide an answer while he is coding. So here we go.
So I guess I'll share my screen. And so the first thing is, well, we need the source code for the plugin, which is called the Maven Shade plugin. You can find it on the Apache organization at GitHub. There is Maven Shade plugin. Latest version is 3.4, if I'm not mistaken. I already have my own fork because I was looking at the plugin previously. And so if I just go to my account, my username here, and there it is. And I already checked out this project locally. I'm going to use IntelliJ, but pretty much any IDE will do. Just have here IntelliJ open. And so I can, let's see, where is this thing? Let's open this project on the command line. Here is the terminal. Looks like I never used IntelliJ before. Ha!
So you're also one of those guys like me that even if you're using an IDE, you want to have your command line so you can enter MV and verify at any time.
I'm mostly a command line person, and as a matter of fact, I rarely use the integrated terminal in the IDE. I always go on the actual terminal, but this is okay.
Yes, it's our personal choice. We just love it.
Yeah. So what I can do is just run the build.
Oh, you have your great GM tool again. If you don't know that tool, guys, that's pretty cool because it covers not only Maven but also that other build system you might have heard of. So
Yeah.
if it types GM build, what actually does it?
What it's actually doing is trying to resolve if the project has Maven wrapper setup. As you may be aware, the Maven wrapper has existed for close to 8 years now, since 2013. It was known as part of the Takari project. And close to 2 years ago, that source code was donated to Apache and finally integrated in what was supposed to be Maven 3.7, which has now been renamed or rebranded to Maven 4. So in Maven 4, this capability of being able to bootstrap Maven using the wrapper will be available to everybody. So if the project has a wrapper, that means that it has a specific Maven version fixed for that project, then GM will pick it up. This project has not been set up with a wrapper, so we can say that GM has located my current version of Maven, which is here. I installed it using SDKman to run this particular file, so you can see the whole address where this is going. Now, if I were to go inside the project structure and try to run the build, GM will allow me to do this because it always navigates to the root and invokes the program. Another thing is that this command line here, this command says build. And of course, Maven knows nothing of build. You will typically call compile, package, test, verify, install. So what build is doing, actually, GM maps build to verify. Why? Because, well, it's shorted. And if I were to use the other build tool, which does have the build task, if I make a mistake, if I constantly keep changing from between Maven and the other build tool and Gradle, so let's put the name out there. And if I make a mistake, I'm going to bootstrap a JVM, and it's always the wrong command, or I need to find out what is going on. If I just run GM build, it doesn't matter if it's Maven or Gradle, it will do the right thing. In this case, we note that Maven was run, and it built the project, it ran the test cases, and apparently everything went well. So we're good to go. The project is in a green state.
So we're done.
No, not yet. We just need to change the code. Let's see. We have to find a mojo.
Yeah,
Probably the shade mojo is the one.
yeah.
I'm gonna make this
For
a little bit
for
large.
for those who don't know motors, a motor actually is the point where the command is executed. So if you want to execute the shade command, you have a mojo that implements that command. So you can think of it as a brick of the plugin.
Right. So we will do two things. We're going to add a skip property here, and we're probably going to bump the version of the project if it has done before. So let's check what is the current version. It's already 330 snapshot, so that's good.
Yeah.
We don't need to touch that now. And so here's the mojo. And if we look at its contents, it has some methods and has some fields. And none of these fields has something like a skip. So that's the thing that we're going to change.
Yeah.
Each one of these fields that we can configure from the outside using properties are typically annotated with this annotation called parameter.
Which is specific to the Maven project, actually.
Yeah. So let's go all the way down. Let's scroll before we start to see methods, and let's add this particular property. Yeah, here we go. So let's do it here. Let's going to add a property like this, a Boolean. So let's copy this as a template, and then we update. Okay. Then we change this to skip.
And skip is quite a default name for most of the plugins, so we definitively should go with that name.
Yes, but we need to do something extra. If we do not change this name, if we do not add any additional configuration, then this field is going to be exposed to the outside world exactly as that, as a skip. There is no shading namespace. So if these could potentially collide with any other mojo that also provides a skip property. So that will be bad.
And the collision actually would that mean that it would pick up the wrong property, or would that mean that the build simply would not start due to that colliding names?
No, there's no problem with the colliding name. What happens is that say that you have two plugins, two mojos that expose the same property name. Your intention is to set that value to affect one plugin, but because the second also shares a name, then setting that property is going to affect the second plugin, and that will be bad.
Yeah.
What we want is to use proper namespacing of this property, so there is no way that there is this name collision. How we can do this? We can add one more parameter to the annotation called property. In this case, we can say something. We'll see what is the convention here for any other properties. So let's right now, assuming that shade is a namespace. Let's look at any other parameters that may define. Here's a property, shade sources content, so no dots.
That's strange. I always thought that they do dots, actually.
It depends on the author. There are many plugins that follow the dot notation. In this case, apparently, they are just one name. So shaded classifier name actually gets exposed. Oh, no, there's no value. That's just shaded. Let's look at something else that has a property. Nothing so far here. So that means that every one of these parameters gets exposed exactly with the name of the field. There is no name spacing.
That's not nice, actually.
That's not really very nice, yeah. Okay, so let's try to do things fine for now. And it doesn't really follow the convention because there is no convention yet here. So I'm going to just leave it as shaded skip.
Yeah, that's the modern way and the safe way, and I think we should do that, yes.
Yeah, so let's change the Java doc, because one of the things that Maven does that I really like is that when you generate the project site, it also generates a descriptor for your plugin, and every bit of documentation that put here gets added into the documentation site. So it's not just going to be the type of the field or the name of the field. Any parameters that you may define here will also appear, but also this doc. So we say when this is true, skips the execution of this module. that.
It's always a good thing because we learn how we can use that property. When I started with Maven, a lot of properties had no such documentation, and it was very hard to enter the Maven world without that. So we are nice here and provide it.
Yeah. Let's see. Then the method is context. The method is X. Yeah.
Do we need a since attribution?
We could. Yeah, that's a good idea. A good catch.
So everybody knows which property, which version of the plugin introduced this. So when you try to use it with an older version, you know what your problem is.
Yes, exactly. So that's a good catch. Maybe, I don't know if it's going to be 330 or just 33, given that here this was added in just 30. Let's see if there's any minor number or they just list, build number. No. Apparently they just list major, minor. Oh, here is one. Okay, so let's give it like that, 330.
Yeah. So as you can see, contributing to Maven is a lot about scrolling around and looking how it was done by others. This is very essential because you need to follow the conventions. If you don't follow the conventions, then you will have some problems with the commit, because these conventions are essential to learn how to use it. And if everybody does as it likes, then we have chaos here in the plugin.
Right. So if you would like to contribute to Maven and you, for some reason, do not follow the conventions, or you might not be aware of conventions. As a matter of fact, I am not really aware of most of the conventions, but I do notice that there is some additional spacings. Just a few minutes ago, I had no space here, but if you look at how the code is laid out, they like to have more spaces. There is a code formatting that can be applied to projects. I believe that the Maven team prefers to use Eclipse, and I don't have those rules installed on my IDE because it's not Eclipse. Now, so if you want to use a different IDE that is not Eclipse, or even if you use Eclipse but do not have the code conventions at the formatting, you just have to be very careful when you submit a patch, because your formatting might not be exactly what the team is expecting. And in this case, they will likely ask you to reformat your code and continue resubmitting the patch. And that's fine. That's part of the learning process.
Right.
So don't feel discouraged if the team asks you to go back and rework your code because it doesn't follow the standards they want.
Yeah, but you're on the safe side, because when you're trying to locally build it, it actually would fail the build because of that missing blank.
Oh, really?
You really? Yes, it does. I tried it.
Okay, let's put that.
Yeah, he tries it. Okay, do ambient verify.
And let's do a build.
Yeah.
Does it fail? Does it fail?
Please fail. Please fail.
No, and no, it didn't fail.
Fail.
Let's run the test cases, and yes, we have failure.
Yeah, you have a check style violation. See.
Well, the check style run very late, but yes, good.
It says missing parent pad.
Yes.
So you cannot do it wrong, actually. Yeah, you can, but you will notice.
Okay, so we added a property. We're not making use of it. So now,
what would be the best idea to do with when we want to skip?
What do you mean?
So is the best idea actually to just exit the execute method?
Well, yes, exactly. So I've seen the implementation of the plugins. What they do when they have a skip property like this, they simply say skip, then return. Do nothing more.
I see. That's not too problematic. Yeah, it hasn't done anything so far, so we can just leave it.
Right. So execute is the entry point for the behavior of this particular module. So the first thing we do is check: do we really need to run or not? Right. So if this is following this, probably is not following the conventions. Let's put those spaces there.
I think so. Yes, they leave out a blank only when there is nothing between the parentheses.
And let's see if there is a space in the if or not before. Yeah,
there is. Yeah.
Right.
You need to get used to these conventions if you do a lot of Maven programming, and believe me, the convention is very, very weird.
The other convention that we might be thinking is, can I do this with a single line, or do I need braces?
You need, I can tell you, you need at least a new line.
If I need a new line, then definitely I need braces.
Yes.
So the braces go in the next line.
That's the next real thing.
Yes. So there are some like myself that I don't like putting braces on a new line, but this is the code convention that team has set forward, and we have to honor those conventions.
Yeah. And I think there are just fashions about code, actually. Maybe you should write a book about code fashion, because when I learned programming, this was actually a normal convention. Everybody did that in C, I can remember. So it's not weird, actually, it's just old.
Yeah. So you just run the build and compiles, and check style is fine. So far, so good.
So far, so good. So what should we do next?
Well, we need to write a test.
I feared we do that. Writing tests is something I actually hate to do.
I have no clue how these test cases will look like. So let's see what this one is doing. Default shader test. Oh my god.
Yes.
Oh boy.
In other plugins, they simply use the invocation plugin to spawn another execution, but this one looks pretty weird.
So let's see one. Let's try to find one that does something simple, like, okay, so this does with transformers. We don't want those. Filter, we don't. Shade mojo test. Maybe this one. So what we want is like take one of this, and because the mojo will not run, any transformations that are expected should not be there. Right?
Yeah, actually, that should be true.
Right. So let's see which one. Where can we find one that is simple? Let's go back to this one. I want to see. This uses the shader directly. Does this? This does not appear to be invoking the mojo. Or does this one does it? Well, this uses the mojo right there. Okay, so maybe we can use this one, because the mojo is the one that we modify. Okay, so let's see. Let's copy this code and put it beginning. Let's change the name. I'm gonna make it the font much bigger, so everybody can see.
Yeah, we can read it very well. We are not beyond 60.
Test skip shading. Let's put a new name.
Is there a convention for the test names? Do you know that?
I don't know. That's a good question. So this appears to be a JUnit 3 or JUnit 4. Actually, JUnit 3, because it uses the test naming convention here. We will navigate to Plexus test case. That extends from test case. That's quite old, right? So this is JUnit 3. So at the very least, we need to follow. We have to use this prefix.
Now, so it picks up the test.
Yeah. Shader, there's no verb. This is just a noun. Another noun. Well, we could have a look like that directly. Nothing uses a verb. It's just nouns. So except this one, shade with filter. Let's keep it with this. Now, here's the thing: is that if at the end of the session we create a pull request and someone in the team does not like the name, then we just have to rework the pull request and by changing this.
Yeah. So nothing is lost. It's just more work.
Yeah. Okay. So we configure everything like that before, but here's another thing that we have to do here with this mojo. We're going to set. Oh, we need to. We need to use reflection if we want to set the field, don't we?
Really?
Yeah, because all the field is private. Maven knows how to set the values of all those fields. Now, it doesn't make much sense for testing to make a public setter for that field. Right, so this is going to be ugly.
Maybe there is some utility that Maven provides for us to do this test.
Let's see, yeah. Let's see what else they're doing here. We got the, well, it's the same thing as the shaded mojo. See, they grab the field,
Yeah, I see.
make it accessible, and then change the value. This is exactly what they're doing.
That's the most ugly test I have ever seen when doing a mojo. All the other plugins used their own POMs, so you could simply configure by a completely normal way. But
By using the invoker,
yeah,
here we're calling the code directly instead of invoking through a project.
yeah, I see.
Right. So, well, let's do the same thing. We're not going to make a big pull request by changing how all test
Sure.
cases
Sure.
get invoked, or just by adding one test case that is invoked completely different from the others.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Let's keep it simple and copy what they did.
Right. So we named this skip, and we are grabbing the skip field and set it accessible and set the value to true.
So if you couldn't follow what we're doing here, this is just mumbo jumbo we need because we have to invoke reflection. So what we do here actually is simply setting a boolean to true.
Right. It is possible for Maven, for these fields, if I'm not mistaken, to also use setters, and I believe you annotate the setters with parameter. But given that this whole module relies on private fields that Maven understands and knows how to set the values properly when the time comes,
Yes.
There's no point in adding here public setters to make our life easier in testing.
Yeah, I am also not a big friend of changing the actual code just to be able to do the test simpler. So let's go it with the reflection way.
Right. So what happens here is that we configure some transformations in the shade mojo. Now, all these assertions should fail.
Well, let's think what they do.
Yeah, so we're applying some configuration to this field to resource transformance, and then we invoke that method on the mojo. Oh, but hold on a second. No, to resource transform. This is not what we want. We want to invoke the execute method.
Yes.
So we need to set some configuration on the mojo. So this is how we're going to do it. We set configuration and execute the mojo and check that it's actually doing something. Then set the skip field to true and execute the mojo again and check that it's doing nothing.
So for what do you check it if it is doing something in the first place?
Right, so let's see the configuration that we have in the mojo itself. That's going to be a little bit troublesome because we actually need more configuration. We need more input.
Yeah. I didn't think that testing this simple boolean would be such complicated.
Right, because let's see what's going to happen if we make a mistake in the configuration. Then this thing at some point is going to fail because something is null or something not set up properly. Or that's another thing. We don't set up anything, and we make it fail, and it has to fail with a mojo execution exception. for whatever reason.
Yeah, sure.
If we skip, then no failure should occur.
That should be correct. Yes.
That's even better. Okay, let's do that one. That's even simpler.
We think it is better and a clever idea, but we will see in the pull request what the other committers think about that idea.
Okay, so let's say execute without configuration, expecting a failure. Now we can put this in just one. Okay, so what's going to happen here is we try and we catch, and this is probably the wrong format. And we catch Mojo.
You have a typo in the catch.
Thank you. We do this. We catch a Mojo exception. And this is expected.
And I think they want another blank after catch, don't you think? And possibly catch in a new line.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to... Actually, no, we are going to just catch any kind of exception first. Let's do it this way. Exception thrown is null. And then thrown equals expected. Here we come with the first assertions. What is the first assertion? That thrown is not null.
Mm-hmm.
So we do something like this. Do they use messages? They don't pass any messages in the assertions. We can actually remove all this code. We're not going to use it.
Yeah.
We don't need this. Okay. So first, it's not null, and second has to be of a particular type. We assert true that thrown is instance of this thing, Mojo execution exception. Hopefully it's not going to be like Mojo failure exception or some other exception. If we reach this point, then we know that the Mojo is trying to do its work and is misconfigured.
The question is, why do you check for not null actually? Because when you have null instance off, it would be false anyway.
Right. I mean, the two could be conflated in the single one. This will simply tell you, this will say, if I got something, then it has to be of this type. So the first check is, do I have, did this line of code got executed at all?
Mm-hmm. So you want to know the reason why it failed. So that's why you have two assertions.
Yes, because one thing is that there is no exception at all, and then that will be bad. Mm-hmm. There has to be an exception. And so second, it has to be of the right type.
So line 81 is more like checking if our test is actually correct.
Yes. Typically, you could put those two, remove this line of code, and that will check that it's actually null or not. But in this case, I want to be really explicit that I want some failure, but I also want it to be a specific type.
I see. So this looks rather friendly now, and I wonder if you actually want to finish the test or if you want to just check whether it runs so far.
Okay, so let's comment this code out. It's not doing anything yet, but so what's going to happen here? If we did this thing right, then the test should be green.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But never trust a test that you have not seen failed once. So how do we write a failing test case?
Well, the question is whether you want to cheat in the test and simply use a not or whether you want to change the implementation.
Or we can simply comment out all the code and see if it actually fails, in which way.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah. So let's run this. Let's say, I mean, we expect something to happen, something to break. Now IntelliJ is compiling. Null pointer exception.
You got a null pointer exception. That's interesting.
See, we were expecting a mojo execution exception, and we actually got a null pointer.
But why is that? Ah, I see. Because it expects to get an artifact to work upon.
Right. So it looks like here this thing is null, and it creates more trouble down the road. Executing 415 here, this line. Right, so this plugin is not very resilient. If there are any runtime exceptions, then they just be automatically thrown out of the execute method.
Yeah.
So that tells us something, that we thought we were being clever here by checking the type. So up to here, this test will be green, but this will make it red.
Yeah.
Because this will be the wrong type. Now let's check that. Let's rerun it. And there's an assertion error. Because it is not of the right type. Okay, so it looks like so far, it is enough to simply say, did I fail somehow? Yes.
But anyway, in this case, you can spare all the try catch, because in that case you can simply fail to test at all. So if you have an exception, then clearly the skip did not work.
What do you mean?
The exception that we catch currently, if we don't catch it, then the test will stop anyways. So that I think there's a big there's not a big difference in catching it and asserting to simply not catching it.
Right. If that's everything that we were going to do with this case, then we simply don't catch it. But of course, we need to continue.
Ah, there will be more code.
Yes, we need more code, of course, because here we're simply saying, if I don't skip, you're going to fail.
Right.
Then we skip. We reset the value of thrown. Null. And then let's copy this code again and put it here. Execute without configuration and skip should not cause any exceptions.
Yeah, there's another typo in the case.
Thank you.
I wonder if some of the Apache guys are watching this show now, like Karl-Heinz or Robert, and have tears in their eyes from laughing what we try to do here.
Yeah, or the crazy ways that I'm writing code. Yes.
Yeah, well, the crazy way is not writing the code. The crazy way is what they force us to do in the test.
Right. So, of course, now this check has to be inverted. Expect no exceptions.
Yeah. Because that is what we want. It does not execute at all, and so there cannot be any exception.
Yes. Right. So we can rerun this test case, and hopefully it's going to be green. And let's see. Yay!
Yay! The bar is green. Always keep your bar green. So the question is it actually doing what we expect, or did we just miss something in our test?
Good check. So let's see again. What happens? We know that if we do not catch this, just executing with improper configuration is going to make this fail.
Sure.
Right, up to here. Then we change the value of the skip property. We reset the exception that we caught before to null, then execute again, right? So if it were failing exactly the same way, then these values should not be null.
So actually, since the outcome changes from red to green just by setting skip to true, the sole course of everything could be the skip boolean. There's no other change, so we're safe.
Right, exactly, because if we navigate to the change that we hear just the beginning of the execute method is checking the state of that skip property, and nothing else happens before that. So we are pretty sure that if a skip is true, then the complete execution of the module gets skipped, which is what we want.
Yeah. The only thing that could happen is that if we provide this pull request, some of the Apache guys will tell us that we're doing a white box test here, because we're not actually setting up an environment and running the plugin, but we looked into the execute method, so we learned that it would throw an exception.
Yes, so let's see, do they have, let's look into the configuration of this project. The Apache Maven plugins. Do they have any setup for Invoker?
I don't think. Oh, there is. I didn't think so. There actually is.
Yeah, there is.
It's in projects. Who would expect that in project? Oh, IT. I know the IT is for integration tests.
Integration tests.
I see. So what? Oh Lord. So what they actually expect us to do is to provide such a project, and actually that would be much easier because we just can provide a POM file.
Yes. So let's pick one that does something trivial. Let's see. Do we have one?
Yeah, you can look at 313, the one with annotated minimize services, because that's the one I wrote, and I'm not a good programmer, so it should be easy to copy it.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay, given that we don't have any issue right now, let's copy this.
Yeah, it's hard to use the right number now.
Yeah, and let's copy this, and this is the skip execution.
Skipper is a nice name.
Okay. Don't add anything yet. So IntelliJ tries to be very helpful by saying, "Oh, let's add everything to source control." No, hold on a second. Let's look at, no, that's not it. This one. This is the main POM.
For those who never worked with the Invoker plugin, what it does simply is it spawns a Maven execution and picks up a POM file, so you can just play as if it would be a real project where you're running this compiled plugin. That's a really great thing to test your things in a real application environment, actually.
Yeah. Let's change the name of the project accordingly. Let's keep execution, and this is skip shading. For now. Okay. Now, do we want to make it multi-module? I mean, it should be just.
I don't think you need that, actually. I did that because I had lots of different test cases here, but yeah. I think in our case we can live with just a single one.
Right, because when shaded occurs, it will create it will create another jar and replace the original one and rename the original as original dash the name.
Yeah.
And then the actual name will be the shaded one. So what we will expect is that the renaming does not occur. There only has to be one jar in the target folder.
Right.
So we do this. There are no dependencies, nothing whatsoever. So
we should change line 28 because the packaging still is at POM, so it would do anything.
Actually, you're right, and we can just remove it.
Yeah. Removing is always a great thing when you're copying code.
Yeah. We don't need these modules, right?
Yeah.
None of that. Delete.
What I learned from you in the Hacker Garden at Javaland was that if you're stuck with something, you just start killing code. And I really love that.
There is another thing that happened is that the plugin here is not configured. So when we look at how this is set up in others, here it is. We need to do something here. We need to add the shading plugin. Power pump. Yes. Shade, shade, shade. Create shader artifact in face package. Go shade. Whatever configuration.
Actually, we don't care about the configuration in any way because
so we could pick just the default.
Yeah, just need a default. But the only thing we need is that we want to set skip to true.
Correct. Before we do that, we have to make a failing test case, so we don't skip.
Yeah, okay.
We don't skip.
Yeah.
You
see, I'm always lazy. I only write green code.
Oh, this uses bean shell for verifying.
Yeah, but it's nice. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we don't need anything. What we're going to do is verify that files exist.
Yeah, it's pretty much what these tests do. They just compare the expected files and the actual contents.
Right. So these will be a skip execution. There's one jar file. This will be the original jar file. And these will be the shaded jar file. If I'm not mistaken, the original will be renamed like this. And the shaded is this one.
Yes, this is a default configuration actually.
Yes, we don't need to make them jar files. We just need to check that these are files.
Yeah, because we don't want to unpack it.
Yeah, we don't need to check the contents. We just need to know that they actually exist. Right. So for that, and this is just a regular file, like that. I did this. Okay. So, hold on a second. I need to check again because I was very quick and I don't know bean shell.
Sure.
There are no assertions, so I guess we just throw exceptions, something like that.
Yes. If you throw an exception in these verify bean shell files, then this will simply make your test turn red.
If original jar file exists, then we must fail. That means shading occurred.
Let me think. We have not skipped it, so it must be there, right?
Yeah. So we actually just need to check for that one. We don't need the second one. Just to check that this does not occur. The original jar file exists. Shading was not skipped.
And we should execute this to see if our name chosen actually was correct.
Yes. Do you know how to invoke just one single integration test case? Because I definitely don't want to invoke everything.
If I'm trying it, I'm just going into that project and execute it inside of our test project.
Can you do that?
Yeah, sure. It has a dependency on the original plugin, so it should work. At least I did that. Maybe it does something completely different.
Going here and just invoking Maven. I'm going to use Maven here instead of GUM, because if I were to use GUM, it's going to navigate all the way to the top. Right? Or I can also say GUM, I think is nearest. It will run just this one. But let's go with Maven.
Yeah. If you don't remember the names, MV and Verify.
Is there anything else? It's just verify?
Yeah.
We don't need to activate.
I think that should work. Or do you think we need a profile for the integration test? No, I don't think so.
Let's look at the root POM. It's in a profile, yeah.
But doesn't that mean simply run all that tests? We're inside of one of those tests, so I don't think we need it.
Correct. Now, but I don't know if it's going to work completely well, given that this is expecting the plugin to be provided by the mock repository manager.
I see.
So we simply test the code. We have not packaged it as a plugin. We have not published it anywhere. And even if we did, this property will not be replaced when it needs to be.
I see.
So if we just want to be sneaky without Googling how we can run one single test case, here's what we can do. We can change this to 330 snapshot. Install the plugin on Maven local and run just this project. That is the brute force approach.
Yeah. And that's why it worked for me, because I didn't know that I never must do mvn install.
Because the alternative is to find out how, research how we can run a single integration test case.
If anybody out there knows the answer, we have a chat here, so please type the answer in the chat.
Okay, so we're going to go with that one. We're going to go with the brute force approach, which works from occasions if you don't know exactly everything else that can be done. Because right now, Marcus and I don't know how we can make things better by running integration test cases, just a single one. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is just for a quick test, but there has to be a better way to do this. So I'm going to comment out this to leave it as it was. And then this will be version 330 snapshot, which is what we are building. And I will go 4 levels up, I believe. Here we are in the shaded plugin. And I'm going to install into Maven local, because this is what we want. We want to push the current version of the plugin into Maven local so that this other project can consume it.
So let's see what happens.
Yeah, I can do install if I'm not mistaken.
In reality, you never want that, actually, because what we are currently doing is we push something completely hot and not baked correctly into your actual repository on disk. And tomorrow we have forgotten about that, and it will be picked up. So be really careful when you're doing mvn install.
Yes, this is definitely not the recommended way to do things.
Yeah.
We're doing this because we do not know better.
Right. Just like always.
Yes. But definitely, please do not do this all the time. This is just to get out of the bind, because otherwise this session will be a bit longer so that we can research properly what needs to be done.
So this is the time when we show the sign, kids don't do that at home.
Yes. And now with COVID times, you definitely don't do it at home, because that's where we work. So we go back to the skip execution project that we had before. And I'm going to, let's go wild. Let's test it. It should work.
Okay.
I mean, we should see that it tries to resolve the dependency, and the test case should fail because the file that we're expecting, that we're not expecting to be there, will actually be there. Oh, I did it again.
Yeah, you did it.
Yeah, it's not GM. I can do GM build. That will be just this project, which we can tell here, right there. Build successful. Jar will be empty, not content. Okay, that's weird. Look in the target. There's the original aggregate 10 jar and the aggregate 10 jar.
Yeah, it's called aggregate. We changed the name actually.
So aggregate should not exist. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So guys, you see, this is more like trying out how it works, because we don't know actually why that file is called aggregate.
Yeah, if we look back into our POM file, oh, there is this artifact ID. That's why.
I see.
Stupid me. So let's use the proper name. If we make use of our eyes, then we will see that. Here we go. There we go.
You cannot live with the fact that you don't know something, right?
Yeah. So I'm doing a clean because I want to wipe out the target directory.
Okay.
Right, to make sure that there's no previous artifacts. And build will be exactly will map to verify. And
Success.
You know why?
No.
Because this verification file, it's only invoked as part of the integration test case coming from the parent.
Yeah. Right. So we actually have to learn how to do that.
Yes.
I assumed that. It's so crazy hard that we have to learn such a lot of things today.
But before we do that, let's do some manual inspection.
I thought to say before we do that, there will be more commercials.
So we know that with any changes in the configuration, these two files, actually there is escape execution and original escape execution will be generated.
Yeah.
So now let's add that configuration here. Configuration. Oh, yeah. If we do it, that's not the right place. There we go. Configuration, and then we say skip. True.
Don't we have to add the prefix?
No. The plain field name goes into the configuration. The prefix, and that's a good question. If we wanted to skip it the other way, we would do it using a properties block.
I see.
Right? Properties. And here is where we use the prefix version. Shaded skip. True.
I see. So that's the difference. Okay.
That's the difference, right? Here is always a field name, exactly as it appears in the code. And here is a property name. The other alternative that we could do instead of just passing this configuration here is you can set it in the command line as a property. Like here, we have to use the skip value as well.
Yeah, right. And what I learned actually is that you don't need the equals true. You just can write -d and give the name. That's also the same.
Because it's a Boolean.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so let's test do two things. First, let's test using the field, and then we can set testing. We can test using the property.
Yeah.
Just to be sure, right? So if we do this and we clean again, we expect only one single jar in the target directory. Let's see. Builds a jar, and there is no output from shade. We could probably add a message saying the execution was skipped. I think some plugins do it. Don't know if it's that common.
I don't know if it's common. I know that some plugins do it, but I don't know if the majority is doing it actually.
Right. So that will be one thing to perhaps consider when crafting the pull request. We'll be asking the question to the team is, is it a good idea to output a message saying execution was skipped?
Yeah. Or just try to do it and see what happens.
Right.
Because I don't I don't think if you want to add this message, nobody will complain about it.
Right. So there's only one jar. That's good.
That looks good.
Okay, so let's take out the configuration. Let's do another clean. And now, again, we're back into square one. We expect 2 jars. Correct. We have 2 jars.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's use the property like shade skip. Was it shade or shaded? Shade, right?
Shade.
Yes. Go here. Shade skip. So we're using this name. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
Let's run. There's no output from shade apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look into the target, there's only 1 jar file.
Yeah, it skipped. So we know that our code is working well.
Yes.
That's fine.
The test, the actual test for this, and I don't know if we can keep it running while we try to figure out how to just run one integration test.
Yeah.
Is that if we activate this profile, then it's going to run every single integration test case.
Yeah.
It will run ours and everything else. So if ours is configured correctly to fail here, then it's fine. And if by any reason our code, which is tiny, made any changes or affected other test cases, we will also know.
Yeah.
So that means we need this profile. And how do we run this profile?
Yeah, you enable it by -p.
Yes, given the name.
Yeah, right.
Right. And typically what you would do is run the verify lifecycle phase.
Yeah. And
So
guys, before you're opening a pull request, always use the run ITS profile, because your test you're doing locally will not be sufficient to be sufficient for adoption into the source code of the project. You must pass the run ITS tests.
Or any other profile name that runs integration test cases, because sometimes it has a different name. So we can check this. We can check that integration test cases will not be run just by saying run Maven verify.
Yeah.
And this enforces and does check style, compiles the code, generates the descriptor, run just unit test cases, and that will be pretty much it.
Yeah, and normally you're happy now and think everything is fine, but that's not the truth.
Yes, we're not done. Okay, so let's now do it activating the profile.
Yeah.
And the output will be different now. That should be much, much longer output.
Well, not on my laptop.
No. So until right now, that's unit test cases. And now it's installing user, and now we're seeing more stuff happening.
Yeah, it's now trying to pull all the dependencies for all that integration tests, and this possibly will run for hours.
Hopefully not that much. So while this is working, because what is actually happening, everybody that is in the audience, it's invoking every single one of these projects, which I believe they're about, wow, that's about 60 or so.
Yeah. So actually, all the plugins of the Maven universe are very thoroughly tested. There are really lots of integration tests. But on the other side, that means before you can open your pull request, just drink a coffee.
Yeah.
Or something of that orange thing that you have.
Because this is gonna take a while.
Yeah,
Or
this,
I
this,
mean, uh, but if I was smarter, which I'm not, I could have cheated and put our project in just another directory.
yeah, sure. or
Why?
or or use something like exclude inside of that.
Uh, maybe. But the thing is that, yeah, that will help us figure it out if this bean shell script is correct.
Yeah,
And once we know that that is actually true, then we definitely have to run every single integration test case again.
yeah, true. And
Right.
in the final run, we definitively must run them, but
Yeah.
it stops us from the progress now.
Yeah. So, okay, it's because this is already started. I'll just let it finish. And if by some reason our test case fails, then I will do again the ugly hack of changing this project file
You're
name.
the master of ugly hacks.
That's what we do every single day.
Sure, that's what we get money for.
So this is going to take a while, and I'm hoping that the this very trivial script will not be broken for something else.
Maybe just because of a typo.
Oh, I hope that's not the case.
No, I don't see a typo actually. Guys, by the way, while we are waiting for the test to fail because we did a typo, what is your opinion about line 19? Do you really love this asterisk imports? I actually did this 20 years ago, but meanwhile, because of the IDEs filling out this correctly, I'm totally unused to seeing the asterisk here. So
When I was more junior, I certainly like to use the asterisk because for me, the imports at the top was just clutter.
yeah,
Like, yeah, who cares about import? I want to see the code.
yeah,
But then there will be times where the wrong import was added. I just don't want to say swing with
yeah.
AWT list and
When
Java util list.
when you learn that there are duplicate class names.
Right. It at some point in some projects it became problematic to figure out exactly what was the correct
Mm,
class name.
mm,
So having every single import statement appear as it is, plain, now is my preferred choice.
mm.
If you encounter a class where it has dozens of inputs, it may be the case that that class is doing too many things. Sometimes
Right.
we cannot avoid this is the ugly blob class, some sort of aggregator class that has to be there.
Yeah.
But for most of the times, once you encounter one of these classes, it makes you start to wonder: is do I really need it? Can it be refactored in something else? Can it be broken down into smaller pieces? Not just because big is ugly, because maybe it's doing too many things.
Yeah.
And if we follow the single responsibility approach,
Yeah.
then that class should only be doing one and only one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Actually, but there's another design choice that may lead to lots of clutter with imports, which is I love actually. I do use a lot of static imports, and it's just my personal choice, but it leads to really lots of imports.
Okay.
Okay, so something failed here actually.
Yeah, we fail, and this is expected
Yeah,
because
that's
we did
always a
not
hard
skip.
thing. That's always a hard thing. If you expect something to fail and you get that shock and you think, oh no, I expected it.
Yeah, exactly. So again, never trust a test case you have not seen fail once. So we have a failing test case.
Yeah, but you said that so long time ago that I forgot it.
Right. So we set our test case here. The check is as if it was working correctly,
Yeah.
but our configuration is not correct. So let's make it correct. Say configuration script equals script. We set it to true.
I really envy you for being able to write that angles. because I have a new laptop and they moved the angle key to another location and I have to search it always. So I hate typing XML meanwhile.
Okay. Does the running integration test cases accept the RF flags, or RF stands for resume from?
Well, can you scroll down? Because if it accepts it, then it should be written here.
To see the full stack trace. No, it doesn't say anything like that.
It doesn't say anything, but normally it explicitly tells you that you can do it.
There were 70 test cases. I said 60, so I was close.
Oh, yeah, that few cases, nobody cares about them.
Let's see if we run it again. And
It was just 5 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. Let's see if RF will do it. If not, then it's going to run every test case again.
Let's see it.
Whoops.
Yeah, it cannot find
Okay,
the
so we don't
point
do
where
it.
to start. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a shame. So
Yeah,
let's run everything.
It's also a shame that nobody writes anything into our chat, in particular, not how we can skip all the 69 other tests.
Well, here goes the mock repository again. And test for one.
We are going on strike now because nobody is writing into the chat how we can skip that. We will be silent for 5 minutes.
No.
Oh my gosh. Do you often hack late at night? Or is this an exceptional case today?
No, there are days where I hack until 3 in the morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Why that? Do you like that, or you getting paid for hacking at night or something?
No, when I do this is because I'm working on some open source project that I maintain, and
I see.
there are days where when I have an idea that's been nagging me on the back of my head, and when time comes, when it's after hours, I decide to get to start work on it, and when I realize it's like, oh, it's past midnight. Yeah. So what's one more hour? And then suddenly like, oh, it's close to 3.
I have two ideas about that. The first idea is when I am writing code past midnight, I'm totally excited about it, and the next day I'm throwing it away because it's complete bullshit. and the other idea I have is that my wife hates me for doing that. Because it's not nice when I'm writing code until 3 in the morning. The next day I'm totally screwed.
Yeah, that's why I don't do it, or try not to do it so often for the same reason.
Yeah.
But there are times where this idea does not let me. And,
Yeah, sure.
It's like something that is nagging me. It's something that I need to get out of my system somehow.
Yeah. And do you know what I really hate? When I'm hacking code at light, in particular when I'm hacking a Maven plugin, I just can't find out how to work it correctly. And I want to find it out. And I'm searching and searching until 3 in the morning and I just don't find it. And I can't find sleep until I find it. And that's a really, really shit situation.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to accept defeat at the time and say, well, it is definitely too late, and let's leave it as it is. We're not making any headway. It doesn't matter if you spend 20 minutes or 1 more hour. It's not going to be there, and just leave it. And many times when you come back the next day, it's like, oh, yeah, sure. It's not working because of this reason.
Yeah. And also another interesting aspect is, often I sit here at night and have a great idea, and I think, well, I must make it work. It's such the best idea I ever had in my life. So I'm so excited, and I hack and hack and hack. And the next morning I look at the idea and think, no, it was not a good idea at all. So the imagination about if your code is good or bad, that changes from hour to hour, actually. And I think that's a point why I, in person, should not do hacking at night, because my ideas are not clear in mind. That there is some like overly excited, but not really really logical. So maybe this is different for you guys. Write in the chat if you're also hacking at night, and if it's sufficient what comes out in the next day. Or just write anything into the chat, actually.
Skip execution is right there. That's our project, and it's green.
Yes, and this is also what we expected.
Right, so the whole build is green. That means our skip property worked correctly with integration, and we didn't break anything else.
That's a good thing. Don't break anything, because they would be really pissed off if we break something. So actually, we did it. We just needed exactly 1 hour.
Yeah, so now let's do some cleanup. Oh, we actually did not run it correctly.
Okay.
That's one thing that was
you don't want really to repeat all the tests.
well. So just to explain what happened.
Yeah.
Our test cases were consuming the snapshot artifact that we previously installed some minutes ago. And it did not consume the reactor property that the mock repository manager plugin exposed. But because we didn't make any changes to the source code in between these test cases, the artifact is binary equivalent.
Yes.
So the test case is still valid. If you were to do this again, if you want to really be sure, you will rerun the test cases one more time to be sure that this is the version injected by the mock repository manager.
Right. Right. Okay. Just for the sake of running out of time, I think we should not execute them actually now. But certainly in a real world situation, we would do it always. I always run all the tests.
Right. Okay, so we removed that because we didn't need it. There's nothing extra that needs to be added here. We add this directory to Git. What else?
So when you're using Git, then you love your IDE, and when you're using Maven, then you use the command line.
Sometimes, so because I know that this is the only thing that I added. Otherwise, I will use the command line and check for the status. And I see that I have 2 modified files and 3 added files. Mm-hmm. So the 3 added files are these ones from the IT project. So we should to go. If we want to know more, then those are the changes. So we added the field to the mojo, and the skip call to the mojo.
So these 3 lines actually are what we wanted to do, and the rest of the day we spend with all the other lines.
Right. So here I see, going back to the inputs, here we have this change for a mojo execution exception, which I believe we're not making use of. Because if we look at our alt test case here, just checks that there is no exception.
Yeah.
So that means we have a dangling import statement here.
Yeah.
And
actually, do you know if this harms in some way? Actually, it shouldn't.
No, it shouldn't. But I mean, it's
not nice.
It's noise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just it's better if we take it out.
For a long time when I was a junior, I wondered if import actually does something at runtime, but actually I think it's really only for the names in the compiler.
Yeah, it's used for resolving the class class references. Yeah. So if we get another look at our changes, again, there's the field, the actual invocation, checking the field, and our test case. There should be just the test method and nothing more. Right.
Great.
Good.
That looks
So
pretty good. Really awesome. Guys, we did it in just 1 hour, or no, Andres did it in just 1 hour, adding a new property, writing a test case, writing an integration test project, running it several times, proving that the test fails, proving that the test passes. So you see how easy actually it is contributing to open source, and in particular to a Maven plugin. And I really would encourage you to do the same. Just pick some issue in the tracker and try to fix it. We really live from contributions. So what I would do, Andres, is if you spend the time to actually push it on GitHub, I would follow up in a future show. I have a show once every 2 weeks, and I will look into the show if others commented on your pull request, so we can see what they tell us, what our ideas are they great or are they shit, and I will comment it on the show then. So we'll see what happens.
right. So of course we kind of cheated a little bit doing this work today because Marcus and I we know a little bit of Maven code, so we knew about the conventions and we knew about how to do the integration test case. But if you do not know, well, today should be a nice way to get started. And but if any case, if someone else wanted to do this without knowing the setup of the Maven project itself, will let you most of the times know when you are doing something incorrectly or where you can do things in a different way. Just like we figure out that the check style rule will always be activated. Now, I don't think I'm able to do the send the pull request right now today because before I do this, it is highly recommended
Yeah,
that
you need to.
it is a ticket open
Mm-hmm.
where discussion happens in this particular arena. I believe we may have one open, so we just need to browse it. And
Oh,
if that
yeah, right. You in person filed it. I remember.
did we file it?
Yeah, you did file it actually.
Let's find where's the
At least we discussed that you filed it.
we did right. So do Maven shade plugin is what, Jira? Here we are.
Or I dreamed that you did it. Possibly.
So, no, that's not one. Is that the one? Yep. Well, click on that one. Here we go. And it's going to be add an option to skip execution. Here we go.
Right. And it was filed by whom?
By myself.
Yeah, see?
Okay. So this kind of works. Oh, so we have this. So let's be much better.
Yeah, rename the directory.
Yeah, let's do that. Refactor, rename.
This is just another convention. When you're writing an integration test sub-project, then it's a good thing to name it like the issue, so you can find it later.
And let's put it in the name as well. So let's keep the artifact as what was the name that we added? 282. Yeah. We keep the artifact ID, but we change the name.
Yeah.
Right. Just like this.
Oh, and there's one thing I forgot. But maybe I think it's automatic. The scanning for the sub project, it will pick up any name, right?
What do you mean by that?
We did not configure something to pick up our sub project. It was just found because it's in the right subfolder.
Yes, exactly. There's nothing extra. It is not related to the name or to the artifact ID.
Okay. I haven't followed that previously. Okay.
Yeah. So this name was only used in this spawn file, nowhere else.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, good catch. Because sometimes there may be external reference to these names or value that need to be adjusted.
Right. Okay. So that's the sole place we need to change, right?
Yeah. Okay, so if this is the case, let's look at the log. So what they do, there are some commits that are signed off.
I always sign off actually.
I don't know if I have set up signing here locally, but I was
I
looking
see.
at what is the convention for crafting the comments.
I actually haven't noticed that they do have a common style to do that.
So we have here this, then we have this one from Robert that says no reference, or they just use this one. So I think that we're going to go with brackets and the ID of the issue and see what we're doing.
Yeah, and in many places when you work with the Maven guys, they do that bracket style, so they can clearly identify the issue.
Yeah. Okay. And we're going to use a trick for the co-author if... So I think we add something like this, right?
Yeah, right. You can copy it, right? Because the last time we had to guess how to work.
Yeah. So I'm going to copy that into another file, another window.
By the way, greetings to Romain. Hello.
Okay, so we're going to say commit everything, and
we have a comment in the chat, by the way, that Marcus Phylon writes we should extend the name of the sub-project from Maven Shade 382 to Maven Shade 382 _ skip execution.
To be more precise. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, we can do that.
I don't know if that is actually needed, but it sounds feasible.
Now you can see that happens. So there are projects that do that. There are those that don't, and there are projects that don't even have the ticket. But I guess that if we have all the information like that, makes it much easier and quicker to find out what this particular test is doing.
Yeah, it's more work for us, but it's more descriptive.
That's a really nice suggestion, Marcus.
Yeah.
Thank
you, Marcus.
Yeah, thank you. So MShade 382, what we're going to do is skip property to skip execution. And then what do we do? Added a skip field to skip. That is kind of
yeah, add a skip to skip.
Yeah, skip. Skip to Shade Mojo. And what else? I guess that's it.
Yeah, and certainly we need the co-authored by.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything. You can spare my name out of that.
No.
Hey, if you're writing it, yeah, right. You needed a G, right? And yeah. I think actually we have to add the mail address. So it's yes. Marcus at headcrashing.eu. It's always nice to get credits because I didn't do anything at all. I just sit here, drink a beer, and laugh into the camera.
No, my friend. You are my partner in crime here. If I go down because of this, you go down as well.
Oh, so I insist on removing me immediately from that.
The fame and the blame go hand in hand.
I see. Damned. Okay, if they actually do not accept our pull request, then I swear we will come back and fix everything, and we will do another show where we prove that it's finally inside of the code, because we really don't want to just do a show. We want to improve that plugin, really.
So I guess is this enough for the message?
Yeah, I think that's more than others, right?
Do you know how to rename a branch?
How to rename a branch? Yes. Just chit branch -m.
Okay, I'm gonna rename the branch to be MShade 382.
Yeah. That's also a convention I have noticed a lot of times.
Yep. Done. And now I can, let's see the remotes. We got my fork and the upstream fork, I mean the upstream repository.
Yeah.
So I can commit to origin and the name of the branch.
So for those that are not familiar with that kind of work style, we're doing a three-way here. So we pulled from the original from GitHub, and he is pushing now in his fork, and from the fork we're doing the pull request into the original again.
Because I don't have permissions, I don't have commit rights on the original repository.
Yeah, and even if we would have, it's a nice thing to have a pull request.
Yes, exactly. So here goes. Yep, we got a branch.
Yay!
And now we can move back here and go. There is our branch has recent pushes, compare and pull request. And aha,
Oh, what's that? Oh my god.
we have a template. That's a good thing. So okay, let's see what they're asking us.
It's looking like a lot of questions.
So there is a Jira ticket for this.
Okay, we can check this.
Each commit in the pull request should have a minimal subject line and body. I guess so.
Yeah, we have that.
This is looking correct. No, that's wrong.
No, you need to remove the blanks, I think.
Yeah. It's like this. So when we do preview, yeah, this mark. Perfect. Yeah. Format the pull request title like A.
Good guess.
Yes. If not, then we will have to do it here.
Yeah.
Right, replace with the appropriate Jira best practice to use the Jira. Perfect. Yeah. So we did that.
We did that.
Write pull request description that is detailed enough to understand that the pull request does and why. Yes.
Yeah, do we?
Run Maven clean verify. Well, we kind of did, right?
Well, we did it. I think we did it.
Yeah, so this is for unit test cases and checks, and then run integration test cases. We certainly did run them.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm an Apache committer, so I believe I don't need to sign the ICLA. But if you are not an Apache, if you're not a member of Apache, and you want to contribute to any Apache project, and they're saying if your contribution is more than 20 lines of code, then you have to check the individual contribution license agreement.
Yeah, but the better idea always is become a member of the of the Apache Foundation.
Yeah. And make sure that our contribution is licensed on the Apache, which is true. So I don't have a problem with that again, because I am an Apache committer to Apache Ruby. Mm-hmm. And I don't need to file anything.
Marcus is writing in the chat that we forgot a dash in the pull request title line. I cannot see that there is a dash actually.
The pull request
title? There is a dash. Marcus, what do you want to tell us, actually?
Here. He's probably saying this.
Is this needed?
Well, I mean, just
I see. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good catch.
Thank you, Marcus.
Good catch. I never did it, actually.
Yeah, so let's do this with that. And then let's give field to Shade Mojo.
But I think we can remove the co-authored by here.
Okay. You sure?
Yeah. We don't need it in the PR. We only need it in the commit.
Okay. Let's give field to Shade Mojo to skip execution. Just like that.
Yeah.
And it looks like this.
Looks good.
Yeah, all those checks, and I have that. Perfect. And
yeah, it's always a good thing to compare what we did.
Yeah, so here's the Invoker properties file that was added to our project, and there's the POM file for the Invoker, the integration test case, that's fine. Then the verification script, which is also fine. They might say something about no new end line there. And this is the actual code that we wanted to do.
Yeah, that 5 lines.
Is like 11? 11 lines of code.
Okay.
Actual production code, 11 lines.
Well, the actual effective code that's executed is 4 lines.
Yes. And the test case, we didn't do anything else. Perfect.
Great.
All right, so I'm going to click on the green button and see what happens.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, boom.
Looks good.
This branch has no conflicts. There we go. And I guess, I don't know, maybe there's a bot that will do the automatic review and assign to someone.
No, there's nothing like that actually. We just have to wait what happens, or if we don't want to wait for a long time, we need to invite people directly to review it, actually.
Okay. Then I guess that's
We're
it
done.
for today.
Yeah, sure. That is for today. Andres, that was really, really fun. I need to say, while I'm working in programming every day for money, this time programming was fun. So I really am thankful that you were here and showed us how fun making contributions is. And I really love you for doing the hacker gardens. And I don't know, do you know from your back of your head when the next hacker garden is set up?
Yes, the Paris Hackathon runs every last Tuesday of the month. They are very regular, and of course, they are running them virtually. So the end of April, there is a Hackathon there. The Basel Hackathon, which is the one that started it all 11 years ago, we have not one schedule yet. The last time I think was like 2 months ago. Marcus Phelan, which is online with us, he runs the Hackathon in Lucerne. I don't know if he's running one virtually, but that's something that we can check because we yet have no clue when we can go back meeting face to face. We will be hosting online hackathons for the rest of the year. And that also reminds me, we have another event coming up in May 29th. It's called Hack Commit Push. It is a one-day hacker garden. It's free for everybody, as always. And we hack on open source project. It's as a Saturday from 9:30 in the morning to 3:30, so that you still have the rest of your day. And it's basically what Marcus and I did today with more people coming from all ranges and working with different projects.
Great. So, guys, if you never attended to an hacker garden and you loved what we did today, then go to the next hacker garden where you're really invited. It's free and it's really fun. And Andres and Marcus and everybody else being there would really love you to come there. So, Andres, thank you for being here. It was a nice evening and enjoy it.
Yeah, it was definitely very fun. Thank you very much for having me, Marcus.
Okay, thank you also. And guys, thank you too for watching, and thank you, Marcus, for all your comments in the chat. You really saved our ass. And I will follow up in a future episode what happened to our pull request. Until then, stay strong, stay safe, and always party on. Goodbye, good night.
Goodbye, good night.